Olúwa, ìgbà gbogbo, ẹgbà ọpẹ́, ẹgbà ìyìn.
Also,
All right, I think we're good now. So sorry for the
technical audio issues. I think we're good to go now. All right. So like I was saying, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Planning for Your Child's University Education, What You Must Do Now. My name is Seniola Kolaoli, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. I work with the client, the origination and client experience team here at Quantum Zenith Assets, and I'm excited to be hosting today's webinar. Before we get started, I have a few housekeeping items I'd like to cover. Firstly, can everybody confirm that they can hear and see me well? If you are still having any difficulties hearing me or seeing me, please go to the chat room and our technical team will attend to it immediately. Also, this webinar is going to be available on demand, meaning that the video link of the webinar will be sent to your registered email after the webinar. Now, this webinar is a panel discussion, so we'll have panelists and I would ask them questions on our subject matter today, which is educational planning, and would entertain live questions as well. So during this webinar, if you have any questions for us, please feel free to put those questions in the Q&A box, and in the Q&A session, we'll definitely attend to it. For any reason, maybe because of time, we'll not be able to attend to those questions, please be rest assured that we'll send the answers to those questions to your registered email. Now, without further ado, let me introduce our panelists for today. So my first panelist for today, although she's off-site, is Mrs. Iyabode Atta. Okay. So Mrs. Iyabode Atta is the educational advisor at Tabitha Noel Integrated Services and a co-owner of Wura Farms and Jiva Farms. Iyabode is a trained chemical engineer holding a MSc degree in chemical engineering from the University of Lagos. She has about 2 decades of experience in the oil and gas, upstream and downstream industries. Iyabode is very passionate about working with the younger generation to advance their career growth. She has placed a lot of young people from Nigeria, China, Canada, the UK, and the US into top schools in the US and in Canada at very good value. She's a local support of an MIT alumni initiative, Impact Labs, a non-profit organization based in Nigeria that teaches STEM to high school and early university students. Iyabode is a member of the Board of Trustees of iScholar Initiative, an organization that is dedicated to improving economic outcomes for African students via world-class graduate studies in foreign universities. Please let's make welcome Mrs. Iyabode Atta. Also with me here, I have my colleague, Mr. Adetumi Atayero. Mr. Adetumi Atayero is our head of the research team here at Quantum Zenith. He also holds a first degree in economics from the prestigious Covenant University, and is a level 3 candidate of the CFA program. He has over 12 years experience in the financial services sector, covering equity and fixed income investments, research and analysis, portfolio management, core banking, and treasury operations. Please let's make welcome Mr. Adetumi Atayero.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Let's just go straight to, before we go straight to our panel discussion, with the educational costs rising, planning for the ballooning cost of university is getting ever more vital. Hence the importance of today's topic, planning for your child's university education, what you must know now. I work in the origination unit and I've had a lot of clients talk to me about making inquiries about opening investment accounts for their children. I'll just have an issue here. Okay. With educational costs rising, planning for the ballooning cost of university is getting ever more vital. Hence the relevance of today's discussion, planning for your child's university education, what you must do now. like I said, I work with the client origination team here, and I've had a lot of clients make inquiries about opening investment accounts for their minors. A majority of them do that because they're planning, they have in mind that it's important for them to plan for their children's university education. So we here, we are aware that we're not here to tell you about the importance of planning for your children's university education, because we know that it's something that is important, and we all know that it's important. No matter the level that you are in, whether you're a single or you're a married couple, or you're a married couple, or you're a married couple with young children, both in primary or secondary school, this topic is still very, very relevant. Hence, our discussion today won't be about the importance, but about strategies that you need to know when planning for your children's university education. Also giving you a deep insight as to some of the information you already have. Now, without wasting any more time, let's just dive straight into the panel discussions I have with me, the panel questions I have with me. Okay, so my first question is actually for Mr. Adetuni. Okay, so Mr. Adetuni is going to be giving us the investment side of things, just opening our minds as to some of the things we need to put in place when it comes to investment in planning for your children's university education. Mr. Adetuni, what strategies do you think parents can put in place to adequately plan for their children's tertiary education?
Thank you, Danny. Before I answer that question, I'd like to just highlight something you mentioned in terms of the timeless and relevance of this topic. Personally, to my mind, I think the most important and enduring legacy that parents can give to their children is the gift of quality education. And like you rightly said, a lot of parents seem to be aware of this. And the truth is, beyond houses and cars and other material wealth, when you want to guarantee the sustainability of intergenerational wealth, you are looking at giving your children the quality education that you can afford. So that's why this is a really important. This is a really important topic. And like you also rightly mentioned, a lot of parents seem to be aware, but that seems to be where it ends. And beyond the awareness, they just give a mental assent to, okay, children's school fees are going to be coming due in the future, but they do not certain measures to really plan for this education, which is why this topic is really relevant and very timely. Now, to answer your question, basically, I think there are three just strategies that parents can consider when planning for their children's education. So I'll go ahead and list the three strategies, and then in a bit more detail, I will dive deeper into those strategies. So the first one is to set up an education investment plan. The second strategy is to get what you call an education protection plan, or otherwise known as education insurance. And the third strategy is to get an education trust plan in place. Before I go ahead to delve deeper into these three strategies, I should mention that they are by no means mutually exclusive strategies, in the sense that you can combine them. You can combine two or three. They can complement each other. You don't have to really stick to one. And when I describe the features of these strategies, you would appreciate why that is so. So the first one I mentioned is setting up an education investment plan. I mean, you could think that, seeing as important as education is, and the appreciation by parents of how vital it is to give your children very good education, you think it goes without saying that parents should have a plan in place. However, that seems not to be the case. We have a lot of parents just, because when you think about it, we're talking about education planning, and in some cases, it's just a newly married couple, or it's a single person. So it's, I mean, all those years into the future. So you're really thinking, do I need to start worrying about 10 years, 20 years, 15 years from now, or should I just worry about more immediate concerns? So that's the trick. We could be lulled into thinking it's not a pressing and urgent need, and that we do not take the requisite time and dedication it requires to really make the necessary plans. So what's an education investment plan? It's simple. It's basically just setting aside a set sum of money periodically. It could be every day, every week, every month, quarterly or yearly, whichever works for you, and dedicating that set fund to investing towards the education of your children. So basically, that's what an education investment plan is. It's a plan of action towards a set goal, and the goal in this case is giving your children as good quality education as you can afford. So okay, let's try to make this as practical as possible. Let's say there's a fictional couple, Mr. and Mrs. Ayobami Ajayi. Let's say they have two children, ages 4 and 2, to me and 10. So, I mean, to me it's 4, 10 is 2. So assuming the average university entry age is 16 years. So to me it has about 12 years to get to the university, while 10 has 14 years. And so you're thinking, which is the wiser course of action for the Ajayi to start making plans towards that education right now, 12 years, 14 years before time, or they should wait closer to when these kids enter university before they start making payments? Obviously, the wiser course of action would be to start investing now, start today. Because the importance of that is, like she mentioned also in our opening statement, education costs are rising.
Don't want to wait till then because you don't know how much this
don't want to wait till then because you don't know how much this costs. You can only have a sense of what it costs now, but not what it costs. So the earlier you start planning towards it, and the longer you're able to invest towards that goal, the better, the safer it is that you can reliably meet that goal. Just to highlight some benefits of, I mean, I might seem to be putting some emphasis on immediately and starting now. Like, what's the urgency? This is a decade plus into the future. Why should we start now? But like I said, these costs keep going up. There's no saying what these costs are going to be then. So it's better toward it immediately. Okay, now, so the number one benefit of setting up an education investment plan is that it can easily customize it and make it tailored to your current financial circumstances and what you're currently earning, for example. And then beyond what you're earning, like with the case of Mr. and Mrs. Ayobami Ajayi, let's say the household income for both parents right now is maybe 500,000 naira. That's the household income that they have combined, both of them, assuming they're both working. So the question is, how much can they comfortably, reliably save or invest towards their children's education? So that's going to be different from another family. Let's say maybe the Odogus, for example, the household income in a year is in a month is 2.5 million naira. So I mean that's everyone is at a particular point in their life's journey at a particular stage. So the Ajayis now, they're earning 5,000 household monthly income. And that's where they are right now. But the flexibility with which you can set up an education investment plan is such that when their financial fortunes improve, I mean, 12 years, 14 is still far into the future. Promotions will come. I don't know, maybe they're lucky, they win lottery or some other windfalls come their way. They can be able to allocate more of those extra funds, extra income into their education investment plan for their children. So that's one major benefit. Another one is that starting now and starting early, using an education investment plan helps you to minimize what is called shortfall risk. So what is shortfall risk? Basically, it's the risk that when it's 12 years time and Sumi has to go to school, for example, you do not have enough funds in your investment fund to cater for that education. So that helps to minimize it. If you save for longer and you start now, and when you consider the power of compound interest and compounding, that fund is going to grow. I mean, 12 years, 10 years, it's going to grow at a pretty rapid rate, and then it's going to help you minimize that shortfall risk. And lastly, but also very important, another reason why it's good to start an education investment plan for your children is that it helps you to instill the discipline and structure, as in right now, to plan towards that education. So, I mean, every month you have made up your mind. Okay, let's say the Ajays, for example, want to send their children to the best private university in Nigeria in 12 years and 14 years time. And so that's what they've decided as a couple to do for their children. That's the legacy they want to give their children. So the question now is, you know to start now, but then you have to be deliberate. That's what a plan does, basically. It helps to be deliberate in planning towards your set goal. So that is another benefit. It makes you commit necessary resources now and going forward into making that aspiration of yours to give your children a good education, making it possible. So that's it on education investment plan. Those are the major benefits. And I'll say again, the earlier you start, the better. Basically, it's advisable you start now. Another strategy, a second strategy that you can look at is education insurance or education protection plan. Basically, what does that mean? It's just a plan to guarantee that in case of eventualities in the future, maybe something happens to your earning power, or maybe an unforeseen or unplanned event happens that makes it impossible for you to be able to make payments for your school fees of your children in the future. In this case, the university education. So it's an insurance policy to make sure that whatever happens in the future, your children's education is going to be well taken care of. So basically, that's what education insurance is. Okay, like, I mean, using the Mr. Jai's scenario, the children are not going to school in another 12 to 14 years. That's a long time. I mean, a lot can happen in 12 to 14 years. You would agree with me. And if you don't agree with me, just look at 2020 that we're in right now. I mean, when we started this year, a lot of projections, but I mean, who would have thought a tiny virus from Wuhan in China is going to really bring the whole world to a halt? So there's so much uncertainty in the future, but we try to plan as much as we can. And that's why an insurance policy is very, very, very important. So I just give you the basic features of, I mean, it depends. It's usually a product sold by life insurance companies and the insurance company you are buying from. But the basic attribute is that there's an assured sum, there's a maturity, there's a term that you're looking to invest for. So let's say 12 years for Tumi now, and then you have calculated based on current school fees and projections that when he goes to school, it will be about maybe 8.5 million for his education. So what you want to do is, so the insurance company is going to calculate the premium that should go along with such an assured sum, and then the term to maturity of how long that policy is going to run. And based on that and some other factors, they come up with the premium they're going to be paying towards that insurance. So that's basically how that works. So you're making payments, maybe monthly, quarterly, or yearly. You're making premium payments towards that, such that along the line, if anything happens, you're guaranteed that the education of your children is not going to stop. I mean, this is life. Life happens. As much as that topic of maybe premature death, but I mean, these things happen. We see it every day. So it's better to be realistic and take a proactive approach towards it, and just put it there. It's a backup anyway, just insurance in case something happens. So that should be there. And the advantages of insurance, of having education insurance or education protection plan, is quite obvious. Like I said, accident, permanent or temporary disability, whatever the eventuality, education is not going to stop. It's very, very important. Another thing is, depending on how it is structured, education insurance can actually, there are some tax benefits that actually accrue to running such a program. So that's the second strategy. And like I said earlier, they're not mutually exclusive. I mean, you could have an investment plan running on one hand, and on the other hand, just have an insurance policy. Along the line, you are not able to keep up with that investment plan, then you can fall back on the insurance. So that's the second strategy, this education trust. I'll try to make it as practical as possible so we don't get bogged down in too much technicalities. What's a trust? What's an education trust? Okay, let's use the original, in more way they've acquired or other. So they have that asset already. And the value of that asset would have appreciated such that it will be enough to adequately cater for the universal education of their children. So what do? They approach a trustee, which is a third party, and then they transfer the rights to that property. It doesn't have to be property, it could be funds, it could be investments, whatever assets. They transfer the rights to the assets to the trustee to manage on behalf of their children, to me and Tenny, such that based on the trust deed and how it is set up, in 12 years and 14 years, and when these children have to go to school, that money is going to be used solely for the education for their university education. So that's another strategy that I can put in place. And I mean, a major benefit of having a trust for children's education is that it ring fences that particular asset such that it can be no interference. It cannot be used. You can't use it to settle claims. You can't use it. Creditors cannot come for it. It's sacrosanct that it is going to be used only for the education of Tumi and Tenny in this particular scenario. So that is the third strategy. And so you can, you can mix and match, however, based on your financial circumstances and whatever works for you. So you can have an investment plan in place, you can have a trustee to ring-fence your assets, and you can have an insurance to overlay the whole process, such that whatever happens, you can always be assured that the university education of your children is going to be guaranteed. So those are the strategies that we're aware of.
Thank you so much, Tumi. Thank you so much. That was quite insightful. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so if we're picking anything from the first question answered by Tumi, first thing is the importance of an investment plan. You mentioned that. You also mentioned the importance of a protection plan, which is insurance, just in case we never pray for evil, we never pray for untimely death, but this is life and this happens. Like he clearly said, if anybody had told us sometime last year that there was going to be a virus that's going to affect the entire world, we would have disagreed, but here we are now. So it's very important for us to plan also for insurance. And then the third part, which was the trust plan, that's also very important. Thank you so much to that was very insightful. Okay, my next question is also for you. So you've talked about, okay, it's important to have an investment plan, it's important to have an investment plan, it's important to have an insurance and all of that. What are the investment products currently available? So I'm a parent now, I've heard what you said, I want to kickstart, I want to see the current investment plans, investments, vehicles that are
Thank you for that question. After this webinar, you are excited, you really want to take action and then start investing. So that the question is, how do you go about it? What are the available vehicles and investment products that you can use? Try not to make it too technical, but I'll just list the different asset classes that we can consider. So you can, we have real estate, a lot of people are familiar with this. So you can have real estate, that's one. You can have equities, and that's basically investing in publicly or private equity for companies. That's another avenue. Then also you're talking about treasury bills, we're talking about bonds from corporates and government entities. Just a quick aside here. Then just a few years back, you could earn 15, 18, 20% on treasury bills.
Yeah.
Those were the good old days. It was almost free money because you are basically getting 20%, 18% on risk-free investment. These are government securities. They're called default-free because, what's the worst that can happen? The government is backed by the faith and credit of the government. And we're getting 20% on those return on those securities. Well, now those days are far gone. Now the average yield on treasury bills right now, the last top rate, it was 1.2% or thereabouts for 91-day treasury investment. So that's things are changing. So right now, people are becoming more financially aware. It was easy to just put your money in treasury bills and say, just keep it there. Once it matures, roll over. But now, do you want to roll over your investment at 3.4%? Is that the best you can get? So these are the questions that come to mind when you're trying to address this issue of investment vehicles. Like I said, there's real estate, there's equities, there's fixed income securities, and considering what we're talking about here, which is long-term education planning, using the same scenario I've been using. So now, how do they go about maybe buying equities, for example? There are a lot of factors that you have to consider before you give investment advice, which is what I'm not going to do here. I'm just going to highlight the different aspects. A better way, especially for people that are not really financially literate or do not know much about investment, is to maybe consider what is called collective investment schemes. So what are these? These are your mutual funds, and basically it's you outsourcing responsibility to an asset manager or an investment professional that are very, very knowledgeable. That's what they do for a living anyway. So they manage your funds, and it's a collective pool of funds from the Ajayis, the Odogus, and every other person. So they collect these funds together, and then they manage it to a particular mandate. So, for example, you have equity mutual funds, and you have mutual funds for fixed income securities.
Yeah.
I mean, I think most of our clients, they're actually more interested in the fixed income fund because of most of the securities in that fund are long dated, longer maturity instruments. So we're looking at our case study of their JIEs right now. So you are looking at 10 years, 12 years down the line. So what can I invest in? So you have 10-year federal government FGN bonds. You have 10 years some corporate as well as 7 years and 10-year bonds as well. So that's what that fixed income fund invests in. So it tries to match your obligation, the duration of obligation with the investment product. That's one. Another one is you could buy real estate, and then usually it appreciates. So in another 10, 12 years, your land will way. Okay. So that's another for you to invest with that in mind. Or you can buy shares of companies, and as you get dividends, you reinvest them, and then. But the caveat is it's best to approach a financial expert, especially if you are new to these things. So that way they're able to advise you on the best course of action, looking at your current financial circumstances and your risk tolerance. And then so they can match all that together and decide on the best course of action for you. So basically that's how that works. There are different, there are equity funds, there are fixed income funds, there are money market funds, there are ethical funds, even if you have a particular conviction that you don't want to invest in certain types of companies for the long term. So these are all different vehicles that are available that you can leverage on to make plans towards your children's education. I'll just stop there. I mean, if I should go, I don't want to get too technical so I don't lose some of the viewers, but that's basically what it is. Just identify if you're not very knowledgeable in this matters, get the financial experts to really break it down to you and then help you structure a plan that you can work with.
Okay, thank you so much to me. So from the conversation to me had with us, to me has said the importance of having vehicles like real estate, vehicles like collective investment plans, mutual funds, fixed income instruments, equities. So the major take home here is, especially if you are new into this investment world, it's very important for you to get a financial advisor. Because with a financial advisor, you'd really not go wrong. But if you decide to do it by yourself, you have to be very knowledgeable and be very, very careful. But yeah, thank you so much to me. Thank you so much for giving us an insight as to the different investment vehicles we can actually plug into, especially because this plan we are planning for is not a 1-year plan. It's a 15, 14, 10 years plan from now. So down the line rather. So it's important for us to at least know, okay, what long-term investments vehicles do I have that in 10 years time, in 15 years time, all things being equal, it will still be able to pay this children's university education. Thank you so much to me. Okay, my next question would be, can you give us an idea of what private and public schools in Nigeria currently charge as tuition fees? And what impact does inflation have on these fees? So we are talking about educational planning, university educational planning. So it's important for us to even know, yes, we are in Nigeria. What's the situation like in private, in public schools? And with inflation, how do we also think about all of that?
Okay, that's a very, very relevant question, especially in a high inflation environment like Nigeria. Okay, I'll use my own personal example here. I was privileged to be a member of the pioneer sector of Connaught University, and that was in 2002. My very first tuition there was 170,000. I mean, it was a lot of money then. I studied economics, like you mentioned in the tuition profile. That was 18 years ago. I paid 170,000. And even while I was in Connaught University then, the school fee I think was adjusted maybe twice or thrice within my four-year stay in the university. Now, 2019-2020 session, it cost 937,500.
Wow! For the same economics.
For economics, I don't know.
In the same Covenant University.
Yes, the same institution, the same cost, but now it costs. I mean, if you do the calculation, that's about 41% increase. I mean, it's 18 years to be fair. It's a long time, but then that's a staggering rate of increase from 175 to 97,500. I mean, to put things in perspective, my entire stay at Connaught University cost me less than it takes to 100 level now. I mean, this is not speculative Connaught University. This cuts across geography, cuts across institutions, public and private. So I did something. I went online to check average what universities are taking right now for private universities especially. And it comes to an average of maybe 900,000 for economics, about maybe it's obviously close to 2 million for medicine, over $1 million for law. And I mean, these adjustments have to be made because, I mean, like I said, we live in an inflationary environment, and then they have to try to keep up one way or the other. So that's the effect of inflation. But let's go back to the Ajayi's that we're using as our case study. We can only say what school fees are now. I mean, if you had asked me in 2002 when I entered Covenant University, school fees be 18 years time, there is no way I would have, I mean, given you up to a million. That's how much education services increased in terms of inflation. And so we can only say now, okay, so now to enter Covenant University to study economics is 97,500. But what is it going to be in 12 years time? Let's say Tumi wants to study economics in Covenant University. We can't really say, but then you can just, using the previous Nigerian statistics, which shows that in terms of education services, the rate of increase in price has actually averaged about 10% 10 years based on data by NBS. You can date based on data to the future, but like I said, nobody really knows what is going to be in the future. You can only speak about what we know now. So you have to factor in inflation into your calculation, which is why, again, it's very important to start now. Because you might think, okay, I'm saving a lot of money. But then by the time you factor in inflation, the real value of that naira kobo, but the real value in terms of what your money can get. I mean, what can 1,000 naira get in today's naira compared to 18 years ago? So that's the impact inflation plays. I mean, you can't overemphasize or you can't state it too much that inflation is a major consideration when planning in the long term, for any long-term endeavor, especially in a high inflationary environment like Nigeria. I mean, to even bring it closer home, right now, headline inflation is about 12.82%. Food inflation is about 15.4% thereabouts. I mean, that is a lot of money. And then when you now see all the statistics flying about maybe Nigerians spending maybe 60% of their income on food. So that leaves maybe about 40% as discretionary income, which is what I'm going to save and invest from. So I mean, it could be challenging actually, as in trying to make ends meet. But then you have decided that giving your children education, because education is very important to you. So you have to take the pain and then start now. And then with the hope that, I mean, with compound interest and then with the duration of how long you are investing, you are going to be able to have enough when it's time for this children to go to school, that you will not be lacking then. And for the public universities, I mean, the federal government universities, which I checked them, UNIZI, Nsukka, University of Nigeria, University of Nsukka, I checked them, University of Ibadan, and University of Lagos. I mean, it's about maybe 60,000 to 70,000 on average. And I'm sure, I mean, people that went to school 18 years ago, 20 years ago will tell you that the pipe didn't come to 10,000 for their whole stay in the university. So, I mean, things are changing, and it's going to keep happening. I mean, that's just the reality. Inflation it's a phenomenon that we have to live with. So when you are making projections and making plans, you have to factor inflation in.
Well, thank you, Tumi. Thank you so much for that. So, picking one thing from what he said, inflation, you need to factor in inflation because we're in the environment we are in, it's very important for us to put that into consideration. But then you've spoken to us now about Nigerian schools, about private and public schools here in Nigeria. What about the Ivy League schools, the Harvards, the MITs, as a parent, if you want to take your children to Ivy League schools as well, I did a research and I found out that for Harvard, for instance, the average annual fees is around $70,000 US. And if the minimum years your child is going to spend is 4 years, we're looking at $280,000 US. Now, if I'm bringing it home and using an exchange rate of 500 naira, we're looking at 140 million naira. That's a lot of money. So having those statistics out there, how can a parent, and this question is going to be for Mrs. Iyabode Atta, how, having these statistics about Harvard, the MITs, how can a parent supplement their savings? How can a parent plan? How can what other things can a parent consider in planning for their children's university education? So I'm a parent, I want to take my children to Ivy League schools. What other things can I do? How can I supplement my savings in doing that? Mrs. Iyabode Atta, this question is for you. I think Mrs. Iyabode is trying to get us.
Yeah, I can hear you, but I can't see you. So can I go ahead and talk? I did, so I'm ready. About planning for child's education. I'm going to also things that Tumi had talked about, because it's important as parents to have when should somebody start planning? You should start planning as soon as you marry, because that's what I did. My husband and I did. As soon as we married, we decided that we're going to have 2 children. We also decided, well, irrespective of their sex, we also decided that we would like to send them to the best schools available wherever. So immediately we had them, we've opened up college fund. I personally got a financial expert in the US to put me through the setting up of a college fund. So I put together a college fund for my first son. When we had our second son, as my husband was on cross posting, so he opened a college fund for both of them. So, and the reason why we're doing that is that as at that time, I was usually working in the US, and I had insight into what the educational cost is in the US. And then I also realized that annually the school fees increases by 5% on the average. 5% on the average. So that is also, we put aside the college fund. Then we invested heavily in stocks. We invested in mutual funds in some of the top banks in Nigeria and also in the US. We were also deliberate about our finances. We didn't live as the salaries that we earn, because we intentionally give our children the best in terms of education. So that's what we did. So what should other parents do? So there's a there has to be planning around family size. Very important. Hello? Oh, baby, you can't see me, Abby. Okay, hello? Okay, so when I talk about family size, in the past, our parents had a lot of children because they needed them to help them in their farm works. In this modern day and age, a child should be more than enough. And parents should plan their lives such that they don't have to rely on their children in their old age. It's very important. The other thing is that as parents, whether you are single parents or you have both parents living together, both of you should be intentional about raising your children. You should be aligned in the things that you do with them. For example, I'm the enforcer, my husband is the cool guy. So we always agree. If we have differences, we resolve our differences in our bedroom without our children getting it. It's very important. The other thing that we did deliberately was to look at the quality of the primary school that we send our children into. We settled for schools that have impacts in their teaching, that are impactful in their teaching methodology. Schools that offer extracurricular and playground discipline. That was very important. We also looked at feeder nursery schools into top secondary schools in Nigeria. A school as at that time, Corona was the best primary school in Nigeria. So we looked for a feeder school into Corona, even though, because we were looking to attend schools like Adesoye College, Loyola Jesuit, and some of those top schools in Nigeria, that we know that they'll be able to prepare them into the top schools anywhere in the world. So on the basis of that, so the other thing we also look at is those schools that we consider for secondary school, we look for high schools that have very strong curriculum, especially WAEC. Because we found out that a particular school, as at the time we were shopping for a school for our son, had the highest placement into Harvard. And that was Adesoye College of Art. Just an example, there are other schools in Nigeria. So the other thing I'm going to tell parents is that you don't necessarily have to pay very high fees sending your children to secondary school. There are a lot of schools that run WAEC curriculum and they are inexpensive and they are very disciplined. They have a lot of extracurricular activities. They are disciplined. They are just all around very good schools. It does not have to be expensive to be good. And be mindful, WAEC curriculum is stronger than American high school diploma. So just that parents know. So how do we now manage the top schools in the US? When we're close to, once we're close to college Hello?
Hello, ma, can you hear me? Okay, you're back.
Now I've been back. Okay. So for the purpose of this discussion, I would like to focus on America. And the reason why I'm doing that is because most of the top schools are actually in America. That's number one. It is only in American schools, most of them offer a lot of scholarships that will allow just about anybody, whether your parents are rich or poor, wherever you are, that you're able to go to top schools for next to nothing. So it's all, and also American education is very robust. You know, it gives you a lot of answer in and outside the classroom. So I'm going to be using America. So I'm going to define certain things. Number one, how do people pay for college in America? Whether you're an American citizen or whether you're an international student, they're usually free money. So it's now up to you how you now go after this free money. Number one, so schools will offer merit-based scholarship. Any school, whether public or private universities, they all have merit-based scholarship. And these scholarships are usually tied to talents, academic ability, music ability, any other artistic ability, leadership, work experiences, just about everything that the child brings forth. And you also can apply for sports scholarship from private companies and organizations also. But there's a caveat about sports scholarship. There are about 7.57 million applicants for sports scholarship, and there are only 138,000 available. So that's a thin line. And it's only schools that are on NCAA Division 1 and 2 actually offer sports scholarship. Other ones are not allowed to. So it's important that people know. So, and also, there are also scholarships that are offered by private organizations. So the way to get value out of this available external scholarship outside the school that students are applying to is to start off early. When I say as early, as a parent, there is not out of place to start when your child is already in JSS 1 or year 7, as we call it. It's never too early. Looking for scholarships that are tailored to their profile. For example, I'm Yabata. I'm a black girl, so I look for scholarships for black women. Oh, I'm a minority. I look for scholarship for minority. I'm short. I'm petite. You just Google and search for all these scholarships on the basis of your own profile. Very important. So normally there's a very good website that you can use to check. It's called fastweb.com. Some of these scholarships, they range from $500 to $30,000. Some of them will only be valid for 1 year. Some of them will cover you for the 4 years that you're in university. And these are external scholarships, not the scholarship within the school. So how do students access scholarships that are available in the schools? So we need to first of all define cost of attendance. Cost of attendance is tuition, fees, accommodation, and feeding, personal expensive book attendance. So let's use MIT as an example. MIT cost of attendance for students who are in first year now is about $73,000. So I'm going to use MIT to explain two categories of ways of making money. So I'll break it down. So cost of attendance for MIT is about $73,000. So if the daughter of plantain seller is applying to MIT, and then the son of Dangote or Genovia is applying to MIT. So how does MIT see our financial profile? So we'll fill certain forms. If Iyabo Aderonke is an American citizen, Iyabo Aderonke will fill FAFSA. And FAFSA is free application for federal student aid. But if the son of is a Nigerian and applying to MIT, he will fill ISFA, International Student Financial Aid Application. These forms will capture our parents' financial profile. For FAFSA, it will only capture the information of the students that the student lives with. So basically, to capture the income, the equity, the number of students the number of people that live in the household, and the number of students who are currently in the university. Then for MIT and other private institutions that have institutional scholarship, parents will be required to fill PSS profile. PSS is College Scholarship Services profile. It captures more information. It goes deeper to find out all the investments, the equity, different things that are tied to money that the child's parents, both the father and the mother, that they have, because they are trying to get deeper insight so that they are able to meet everybody's need. So when students feel faster or inter a financial profile, so it will define how much their parents should contribute towards their education based on their financial history. So that is EFC. So minus EFC. So the need for me, my mother, and this is a real life situation. So let me use a real life situation. My first son attended MIT, so my second son. So as at the time my son was attending MIT, I just retired from ExxonMobil. And then my husband was still in my son's class. There was a boy whose mother was selling akara in Kano. So both of them were admitted by MIT. My son was admitted to MIT. The boy was admitted to MIT. The boy's need was $73,000. That is today now. But my own need was zero. And I can afford MIT. So I paid full. But the boy whose mother was selling akara in Kano pays zero. So that means that the boy, each one of us needs was fully met. So, and that is because schools like MIT, Harvard, Princeton, Ames College, some other schools, students and American citizens. Some schools demonstrably fully need blind to American citizens. So parents need to be mindful of that. But there are other schools that will meet the demonstrated applicants. But when it's time for admission decisions, they'll be sensitive to the financial profile of that student, and it might be a decision with that student if the student is not most of his or her need. That kind of school is called, they're aware of the need, but they're able to meet all the needs. So in such a case, they will advise students to take a loan or have the parents take a loan to meet up the differential in order to be able to meet the total need of the student. So how will I prepare the students to qualify and meet and be able to be considered or be very attractive to this Ivy League school? Number one, even as early as you realize it, that you have children, even from primary school, it's never early to start being mindful of the profile of your children. Work with your children. Be involved in their academic lives. Encourage them to be involved in extracurricular activities. Teach them to use their hands. The sciences that they are being taught in school, encourage them to do the experiments. Encourage them to do research on their own. Teach them to start reading as early as possible. Make them read every day. The best gift that any parent can give to a child is a reading skill. That is the best you can give to your children. Encourage them to walk. When they walk, However, if you have your businesses, let them be involved with your businesses. If you don't have your own businesses, encourage them to go work wherever. It doesn't matter where they work, even if it's a pure water company. Okay. Hello? Okay, so this Ivy Leagues, they can meet the needs of just about anybody. They are not, but what they are looking for is because they don't believe that your long-term potential for success, it has little or nothing to do with your family present income. And by extension, your family's income should have little to do with whether you can attend college or not. So these colleges, they have substantial sums of money that they have raised over the years. And these funds it allows them to put their beliefs about your potential into action by offering financial assistance beneath it. You understand? So what should parents do? I was talking about what parents should do. Parents should be mindful about their children. Encourage your children to make the best of their lives. How did they do that? Don't be their friends when they are young. Be their parents. They will come around to love you. I raised 2 boys that I bore myself. I was a witch when I was raising them. But now I'm their best friend. I'm their bestie. And I thank God for that. You understand? One of them runs his own company. He went to MIT. He went to University of Cambridge. And he went to Imperial. He's back to this country. And he's running his own company. And my husband and I do not have one kobo in the company that is running. We don't have a dime. He raised the fund for the company with 3 of his friends from seed fund. Seed fund is also not free. It's like the money that the Ivy Leagues give to you. You understand? Encourage your children to just be the best that they have. You understand? Encourage them to get their hands dirty, be involved in extracurricular activities. If it's music, if it's sport, whatever it is, encourage them to read. Encourage them to love to write. Encourage them to take on leadership positions. Put them out there, but support them from the back. You know, but most importantly, please, any parents that's listening to me today, start working on your children to read. For as long as they read, if they have aptitude for reading aptitude, that will translate into an aptitude in their math attitude. It will translate in just about everything. You understand? Allow them to work. Don't do everything for them. Just be at their back. So that when they are leaning back, you can always push them back up. You understand? You know, listen. Children do not need rich parents. What children need is the best of themselves. Children don't need to be. Look, I can give you examples of places in America that their parents are. Third girl this year who is going to Columbia University. Columbia University is going to pay for a ticket and travel into the US. And at the same time, I have a boy who is going to Princeton this year. His father is paying full because his father can afford to pay for Princeton. If his father cannot afford Princeton, on the basis of his profile, Princeton will have still admitted him and given him full funding. So I don't like to talk about money, but even if you talk about this money, even if you want to attend the Ivy League, if your parents have the money, if you are intentional, you start from very age, you can shop around, but it's only going to take you doing a lot of work with your parents and the student and your children, looking for extra scholarships to even pay for your children's school fees if the Ivy Leagues will not give them the money because you are very rich. You understand? So it's no big deal. It's no brainer. Every year, top Nigerian students, they make it into top universities in America. Even in Canada, let me use Canada also as an example. If you have your children, pay attention to them. Schools like McGill, schools like UBC, that's University of British Columbia, and a couple of other schools in Canada, they have some scholarships, full funding for international students. And your children are Niger children. And Niger children, they are usually very good. You understand? Make sure that you're very intentional about them. Send them to school with very strong curriculum. Sit on their heads. Their necks will not break. You know, be on their cases. Encourage them. Start keeping them. But very importantly, as parents, make sure that you are playing out the right attitude around your children. Because children learn, they watch you. They look at the things that you see. Very importantly, they are watching you. People will say, oh, my children they're not wasteful. They're not wasteful because I'm not wasteful. I'm a core Lagosian. I'm a Lagos girl. I was born and raised in Oyibo. I know where they sell 1 million naira lace, but guess what? I'm not going to buy it. I'd rather use my money for better things. So my children have picked up, your children will pick up values from you. I was 56 on Sunday. I'm still working. I'm doing this work. I do education consulting full time. I work around the clock. Number one, I run 2 farms. I'm growing. I'm doing everything, and I still get my pension. Understand? You have to. If you play all the right things around your children, you won't have to do much shopping. They will still be children. You play fancy, but you can always call them to order. Me, I'm the enforcer. They call me the enforcer, and I'm happy to be an enforcer. You understand? They will not be your friends. They don't have to be your friends, but they'll come around because they will do very well in life. They'll go. The world will come to their feet. You know, their likeness. The kings and princes will come to their likeness. That is what will be their portion. So as parents, please, let's stop patronizing our children. Let's stop being their friends. Let's be their parents. You understand? But in being their parents, let's not be wicked. If they know that we're not being wicked to them, they will understand. Other people around will understand. So if you leave me, I'm just going to go on and on and on and on because I have to. Can I? Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the things I need to talk about. Okay, so I can hear you, but I want to take one at a time, eh? So let me take one at a time. Mm-hmm. One at a time too. One at a time. One at a time also. Mm. 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 Okay. So say one thing before I go to that. I have a lot of web. I'll tell you what each website is. Number one, what I forgot to tell you, when our children were ready to go to university, we opened up dedicated accounts with one of the banks. And we started putting in money every month. I would just, so by the time we finished, we didn't need the college fund. So we now use it after the second one graduated for our own personal use. So now be able to have. So what I'm saying is not feel bad. Saving towards their children. It's going to take a lot from them, but it's an investment that is worth the while. At the end of the day, if God sees their intention, they might not really in their old age to get to that you really need all the money. Not when you are young and you're about. Okay, the size. So number one size. There's what is called Khan, K-H-A-N. What I want you to use this site for. Number one, I want you to use this site to prepare your children for WAEC, for work. That's number one. Cover your children up to the second year in the university, anywhere in the world. That's number one. Yes, Khan Academy. Then Khan Academy, K-H-A-N. Let me give you an insight. The owner of that site actually got 3 degrees, $30,000, but he didn't pay anything because it was fully funded. But right now, that was in 90s. So you can see how the cost of attendance grows. It grows every year by 5%. So it's not only in Nigeria. It's all over the world, but from 30,000 to 75,000. So the second site, yes, the second site that you need to, no, the highest school is Columbia & Co. It's about $91,000 or $92,000. Then that same Columbia, if you have a very strong profile, you can attend it for next to nothing. Next to nothing, yes. In fact, nothing. They will even give you extra JARA on top. So how do we get those schools? How to use Khan Academy? The way to use Khan Academy, please don't hurry because this is very important to me. This Khan Academy will allow, so every holiday, especially from JSS 3, which is where the college applications start covering from JSS 3 to SS 3. Every holiday, you must be intentional. Your children must play a little, then they also must prepare for their work. Every holiday, whether it's a week holiday, whether it's 3 months of holiday, they must. That's number one. Number two, if you have schools in mind that you like your children to attend, go to the financial aid site of such schools and see how the kind of the profiles of students that they admit. That's number two. Number three, you can look up fast web, fast, to run, fast, to be fast, then web, web.com. Then you can look at scholarships.com. You can look at college data. Let me tell you why you should look at college data. College data. That college data will give you information about the graduation rates of different schools. It will tell you how many students graduate within 4 years, the percentage that graduate in 4 years and 6 years, so that it will give you an outlook into how much it's going to cost you if your children have to go to any of those schools. It will also show you the average scholarship that they give to students. It will also show you how percentage of the students that they were able to meet their needs 100%. So that way, it helps you to be able to plan your finances. You understand? It's very important. That fast web will give you external application, external scholarships. So you Google scholarship for international students, it will come up. You Google scholarship for Africans, it will come up. Yes, scholarship for Black women, scholarship by women in academics, or women that want to study STEM, it will come up. You understand? So if you're, and some of you are Nigerians, but your children are American citizens, you even have more value. Scholarships for minority, your children are minority. You Google it, you get the scholarship. You understand? By the time you add everything up, you have a lot of money. And then, yes, no, this is real. I'm not making anything up. This is reality. This is reality. So you need to be, it's a lot of work, but it's a work that is worth it. But if you're not able to do the work, if you pay me, I do all the work. Yes, that's what I do. What I do is I'm a chemical engineer. I apply basic engineering principles to get value. That's what I do. And I apply that to every area of my life. That's what I do. I don't like to waste money. If I don't have to pay, I don't like to pay anyway. Most of if I know that I don't have to pay, why do I have to pay? So the other side that you should look at, another side, look for what you call Coursera. Coursera. Why Coursera? Why like course? Course. COURSERA. The EDX. Echo Delta X-ray. EDX. Then also MIT.edu/open course where WARE. Why do I want you guys to look at this site? You should start exposing your children to those sites as early as JSS1. Even I had the primary 6 child that learned how to code from primary 6, so she was already admitted to. No, let me tell you more. Let me just encourage parents. Don't ever look down on your children. This girl was following the siblings to my house for SAT classes and for WIRE classes. So I gave her my iPad and I logged that into my Khan Academy account. She was able to code on her own. She learned coding on her own. So our children they need to leverage on technology. You don't have to pay if you are intentional as parents. You don't have to pay so much money to tutors. Your teachers are online. They are there. All those sites that I gave you, they are very, very useful. They can learn academics there. They can learn technology on there. They can learn how to write. For example, University of California, Berkeley has a very good writing course on EDX. You understand? So you can get so much value. So from both sides, you can help your children to boost their profile. So they're also very important. The entrance exams to universities in the US and Canada, let's talk about them and when we should start preparing for them. Let me use my own personal example, and this is real. So when I used to go and work, I used to work in the US on projects in the US, all around the US. So I knew about the top schools in the US and I knew what the requirements were. So even when my son was in primary 4 in Green Springs, primary 4 in Green Springs has what they call like a book club. You know, they will allow parents to buy books. I mean, that used to eat a lot of my money. You pardon me to say that, I'm just giving an example. So, no. I mean, don't worry. I mean, we are here. From today, you don't want to know. So they had the book club. So one of the books that my children bought was actually a CD on SAT. You won't believe it. The questions in SAT exams some of them are actually primary school questions. You understand? Yes, and they all gather together with their cousins because usually, I mean, everybody stays with me. I'm the youngest in the family, so everybody stays with me. So together, they were able to solve some of the questions. Primary 4. You understand? Then my first son was able to answer half of the maths question in SAT when he was in secondary school. In GSS, am I saying this to you? I'm not saying this, I'm not bragging. I just need to, I only need to tell you the things that work for me. So it's not out of place for your children to start prepping for this test from GSS 1 or even earlier than that by making conscious effort to read Let them watch Al Jazeera. Let them listen to CNN, feature stories, all those Al Jazeera, people and places, you know, what do you call it? You know, different feature stories. Let them just sit down and watch them. When they watch them, they learn to structure how to speak, they learn to structure their writing, they learn to build up their stories. They need to, you know, everything that has to be with reading. Because let me be honest with you, there's no way that when you read a book, when it's time for you to write your own, you'll be stealing from some of the phrases that you will have read or heard from other people. They'll come to bear. They'll come to bear. So imagine if you start off, like for me now, most of the things I can do now at 56, there are things that I started doing when I was very young. I can braid very well. I can do it. I started raising children at the age of about 10. I'm not exaggerating. Please, you can check my family. You can go ask I can give you, you understand? You know, they become part of it that when you just build up time management, let them learn to manage their time on their own. Let them learn to interact with people. If you have 2 children, don't get involved in their squabbles. Let them learn to resolve their differences. Don't be one for the other issues. And then they build that up and they pass into the larger society. If as parents, respect people that work for you, respect them. People that work with you, respect them. When your children see you doing that, they will respect you as parents, they will respect them, and they will also take that into their workplace. You understand? They will. Let them learn to do that on their own. And then when they went to school, don't worry, they'll still be fine. Let them do house chores. Don't leave out the house chores to only the house help. Because in doing those things, in future, if they might end up running the best restaurant in the whole world. Just by the little things that they pick up from you while hanging around in the kitchen. Just be very intentional about them. You understand? They will not die. You see, I've worked with young people. I've raised young people from when I was very young. None of them, I mean, nobody, even you as adults, people don't die from doing work. Listen, you see this, our brain is willing to take as much as we're willing to give to it. It's called neuroelasticity. Neuro, brain, elastic. The more you give to it, the more it's willing to take. So as parents, just be very intentional about your parents. What other question do you have?
Great, ma. Thank you so much, ma.
Date for the exams.
Great.
Oh, thank you. So the SAT exam, please. The most important component of this. I've talked about WAEC, that's the GPA. SAT exam, let them start taking SAT from SS1.
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 Okay, so
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So just to reiterate what you said, so website you mentioned the importance of academy.
Yes.
Can academy help your child with getting prepared for WAEC and rest of the exams? So can academy use scholarships? You said Coursera, EDX. You mentioned yes. Mention MIT.edu. Open courseware. Okay. Then some of the other things that I personally, in terms of you be planning for, as a parent, planning for your children as well. So you mentioned the importance of extracurricular activities. You said the importance of their academic performance. Try and make your children readers. Encourage your children to read. You mentioned that, and that's very insightful as well. And then you said the importance of volunteering. So even if you as a parent, you don't have your own business that you can work in, but encourage them to work for other people. That will also help them as well in their life skills. Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. we'll immediately start attending to some of the live questions that we have here. So because our time is really fast spent, but it has been an enjoyable session. Very enjoyable one. Let me just go straight to questions we have.
Okay. All right, so a question here from some people asking about the contact of Mr. Yabode. We'll share it as at the end of the session, share it on the screen so that people want to shout to Mr. Yabode after and do that. Okay, I have a question here. The person says, my question for Mrs. Yabode, this is anonymous attendee. It says, if you have a husband or a spouse that doesn't really believe in sins, how do you go about it? Thank you. So the person is, what if a spouse or a partner doesn't believe in bathing and all this? How do you still go about it? How do you still plan for your children's community education?
Okay,
how do you
okay,
take
so
them to Ivy schools?
You can. So let me use myself an example. So my husband and I work in the same organization. Both of us had an individual saving plan. You understand? Then, but we also had joint one. You understand? So let's say my husband, let's say he wasn't the one that is not, I don't want to use the word irresponsible. Maybe he's not the type that likes to save. I know that now I have to bear the cost 100%. So let me tell you the way to bear the cost 100%. You see the way what I have done with my children, I don't have to pay school fees at all. I only pay school fees because because the school knows that I can afford it from my financial profile. You understand me? So the way to do it is that this person should be focused on our children. Children, you dip herself and see, don't give any excuse. I was working all over the world. You understand? And even when I was in Nigeria, I checked my children's homework every day. So let me tell you what I did. If I check their homework, I'll let them do their homework. If they miss any question, I'll give them extra work along the path of what they missed to fill that gap that day. And I was the, so let me tell you who I am. I was a chemical engineer in Exxon. So nobody should tell me, no, I'm busy and all that. I don't want to hear that. When my children were in Loyola, when my second son was in Loyola, all the MDs of banks, they will visit. All of us will be slapping our slippers all across Loyola. So there's no excuse. You understand? So this is what you should do, madam. Assume that you don't have a husband, that you are a single parent. So let me tell you the reason. When it's time for you to fill your child's application, you put that in it. You can call me later. I can guide you. At no cost. I'll tell you things that you should be doing. No cost.
Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you so much, Ma. Okay. My next question is actually for my colleague here, Mr. Tumi. So there's a question from Evans, and he's asking, which education plans do Quantum Zenith have? And what are their advantages? How can these education plans help secure scholarship for overseas students?
Okay. Like I did mention during when I was speaking earlier, basically, most of our clients, what we do for them is the fixed income fund. So it's a longer term fund so that we can match the duration of the obligation that we're talking about. Speaking about sending children to school, to university in 10 years, 8 years or longer. So basically, a fixed income fund works perfectly for that. So that's what most of our clients are actually interested in, putting money aside for the long term. And the feature of the long-term fixed income fund is the fact that they are investing in longer dated securities, which naturally attracts higher yield. I mean, basically, it's the longer the tenor, the higher the yield they should be invested, which is why it makes more sense to invest in longer term fund. Also, you could invest in an equity fund, which also makes sense in the sense that
A negative one gives you helps you to an extent to minimize damage on your fund because it's usually accepted as a good inflation hedge when you invest in equities. But the caveat to this is you have to know what you're doing. You can't invest in any random equity, which is why I encourage parents not really sound in investment planning now seek a financial expert. So they will help you choosing highly profitable stocks or companies that give dividends and that historically give dividends such that when you compound the dividends and the capital appreciation that comes from holding these stocks for a long term, then you're able to really amass more. As for scholarships, that's not really my own bit to speak about. Maybe Mrs. Yabo can help with that. I can only just speak to the fact of investing in various investment vehicles that are available and how that can help you towards the long-term planning, saving and investing for your children's education. As for scholarships, maybe Mrs. Yabo can handle that one.
Okay. Thanks for that. So my colleague has told us some of the very investment back we can invest in. So you mentioned fixed income instruments, you mentioned equities. Or if it's something you're very much interested in, these are conversations that we can have after dinner. But yes, some of those that we as parents should be looking at are investment back, like fixed instruments, like equities. Okay, so I have other questions coming up as well. I have a question for Mrs. Yabo. Okay, so someone's asking, the same Evans as well, asking what is the qualifying exams into universities in Canada? What are the qualifying exams into universities in Canada? Mrs. Yabode.
Okay, so the top universities in Canada.
The qualifying exams, the exams you need to write.
Okay.
Okay, so the University of British Columbia.
Yes, I'm with you, ma. Okay, ma. I think that your volume is kind of low. I don't know if you can increase your voice. The volume is kind of low. Yes, ma.
Yes, ma'am.
One, maths level 1 or maths level 2. Level 2 has a bit of pre-calculus. So if you have a child that wants economics because of economics or sciences, you should encourage them to do further math. Even for universities in Nigeria, if they are studying, if they intend to study engineering, let them to further math. Then they will also be required to write TOEFL or IELTS to test their English proficiency. But generally in Canada, all the schools require TOEFL or IELTS.
It's TOEFL and IELTS.
Or IELTS, IELTS, TOEFL, yes, or IELTS.
Okay, ma. Thank you so much, ma. Okay, so we have another question here as well. So one is saying, dear Mr. Yabo, please, how will a minority living in the USA in middle school benefit from this?
Excellent. So if I'm a minority,
do you want me to repeat that or you got that?
So
Okay.
no, I got the question. So what you should do, you should go and look for external scholarships. That's number one. Then number two, depending on your parents' financial profile, the federal government will give you grants from Pell Grants that you don't have to pay back. That's number one. Then number two, you also benefit from the subsidized and non-subsidized loans, which usually is about $5,500. And then the interest rate on that loan is about 4% or thereabouts. Because you are allowed to pay the grant. So that's number two. Your parents will also take the federal loan. The interest rate is, and then all these ones will not, you now have to take it. That's what I prefer. If I hate the loan. So what you should do now is, depending on where you are, your education journey, you should start searching for external loans. You might be applying to as many as 50 to 60 external loans, and some of them will require you writing essays about everything. But at the end of the day, by the time, if you are very intentional, you might be able to cover all your needs from the external loan. You will be able to. If you start doing it now, it's a lot of work, but it's worth it. You understand? So another important thing is that, so I don't know your full profile, but let's say I'm a minority in America and I've not gone far. I'll start paying attention to my academics, my extracurricular activities, and then for what I'll go and look for what these schools that are required. I'll look for schools that I match, I'll be good fit for, and start playing towards them. So I see the end, so I play towards the beginning. So I have the end in sight, you understand? That's actually the best strategy. That strategy worked for me. To be very honest with you, I only had rice in mind for my son. It was my son that wanted to go to MIT. And MIT is #1 school in the whole world. You understand? How come? And he could have attended it with or without me. With or without me. You understand? With or without me. So so the parent that asks that question is just be very intentional. Start helping your child to optimize his or her profile. Stop helping others to start optimizing his or her life. That's all you need to do. Everything I've talked today is optimization, making the best. Look at it. So let me give you an example. So that parents are not discouraged. Let me give you 2 examples. Let's say you have a child that goes to Loyola. Loyola has a lot of extracurricular activities, and very high academic profile. Then I have another child who is very, very smart, and this is a real example now, that attended, there was a particular school in Bariga. In Bariga. That school is very good, but most of the people will not go there. But the students, their curriculum is very strong. Another one in a satellite town, so they do, another one in Otta. They do PTA, they do SAT, they do WIRE, they do everything that's available under the sun. Their children come out outstanding in WIRE. You understand? And so they're able to face all these schools. So when your schools, when they are sending your college profile to the universities, they can see there that your school does not allow you to do extracurricular activities. So that boy that was in the class with my son in MIT, that I said the mom was said, you can Google him, you can Google him. His name is Phyllis Abel. His mom was selling akara as at the time he was going to MIT. Primary school, he sold plantain chips, he sold pure water. He ended up in MIT, fully funded. But when I looked at his profile, he used to participate in the competitions. Even the other students that went to Tufts, they participated, they dirtied their hands. They were really very involved. They made the best of the opportunities around them. A particular girl helped the mother to restructure her business. It was the basis for Harvard to give her full funding because Harvard was interested. So how did we do it? Because it showed a certain skill. You understand? So that's one of the things that you should do. Make sure that You're welcome.
Okay, so my next question is actually for Mr. Tumi, and we are rounding off because our time has been fast spent. For those asking for those sites again, on the chats in the chat room, our panelists have put down all the sites there. So please just go to the chat room. You see all the sites that Mrs. Iyabode mentioned, the Khan Academy, the Coursera, every one of them are in the chat room. So just please go to the chat room. You'll be able to access all those sites from there. And people asking for the contact details for Mrs. Iyabode and for us as well. Those contact details will be shared at the end of the webinar. Now, my question is for you, Mr. Adetumi. So I have a question here from Mr. Charles, and he's asking, what happens to the children, what happens to the child or children when a parent who takes an educational plan cannot complete it? So a parent has taken an education plan for maybe 10 years, but he can't complete it due to financial constraints. What happens to the education of these children?
Okay, that's a very wide question. And it's actually the reason you're taking an education insurance policy in the first place.
Okay.
So, I mean, like I said earlier, it's offered by life insurance companies, and the particulars of the particular product you're buying depends on what the insurance company is selling. So what do I mean by that? Okay, so there's a particular insurance company now that the type of education protection plan they're selling is such that if along the line you're unable to continue to pay your premiums, they're going to waive the remaining premiums up until maturity, such that at maturity they are going to now make the funds available for the child's university education. So that's what I'm saying. You have to be very careful what product you're buying. So you have to read the conditions. So is it such that you have to pay the premium until maturity, irrespective, or such that if something happens along the way, what makes it actually very interesting and makes it useful is that you are insured against future loss of income, or maybe through disability or whatever the condition may be, such that maybe it's a 10-year plan, their trust sum is for 50 million, halfway their trust sum is for 50 million, and then halfway you pay out to 30 million, and then you can't pay that contract. So there are products that will, the insurance companies will kick in from that half year up to the end, such that by up to the end, maturity, they'll make that assured available in your child's education. So it's a question of knowing what you're buying, and all this is a potential you're going to be paying. Just to draw a parallel, if you had a car that you insure for a particular premium every year, you pay premiums on every year, and then there's scholar policy that we pay a car based on short sum, something similar. You'll be sure to insure your child education for a certain sum, and then down the line, depending on the structure, it'll be such that the transport pays with the many premiums, and then by maturity, the child will not be of the to take the share in the first place.
The important thing is the parents or the guardian should be very knowledgeable as what exactly is policy. What is adequate? What are we paying for?
Yeah.
There are actually some insurance policies or plans can cater for this kind of issue.
And there are some that it's much to stop paying premium. What are you up to? It's always going to be made available at maturity. Okay. So you have to different insurance firms, not different products. Even the others can offer different variants, same product. You need to know what you're signing for. What you're signing for determine premiums are going to pay and what benefits going to be entitled to. So the best is to sit down, like I said again, if you have to potentially sit down with them, what you need, they can now sort that to them, so go and show them, and then they come back different options available based on your demand or your request, and then what is available that make your demand. That's what
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for that. I think we should be around for any time from now. I think, okay, just one, any other question that we might have. Okay. So finally, just go through things. You have clearly us now that there's no excuse if there's a parent that wants to, explore the option of taking their children to Ivy League schools. You can actually get their funding, scholarships that parents can actually involved in and can actually leverage on. So thank you for that. I wanted to find out, right, even after using all of this, is there a probability that your child doesn't still get a scholarship? And if the child doesn't, one a parent, you have explored this option, and then for one thing or the other, the deal is also a lot. We are talking about so many other things about this thing. So what would a parent do if after exploring all these options, you cannot afford to get a scholarship? Is that what you heard me?
Okay, so okay, universities. They will be applying to 3 categories of schools. Then you have all the rich schools. The rich schools are those private of the money. In fact, they offer most of the money. So because of that, everybody is graduating, and they are percent or about. So you have to work out the statistics. So there are options based on your own profile. Your profile will be, you try to check your profile against the expectations, the profiles of the student that they want. You also have the next set of schools that you call match. Match schools are the schools that's your profile. So what you do is that for those ones, you have to make sure that they meet your needs financially. They're within what you can afford. So it's important that you start talking to your parents about how much money they'll be able to afford to support you with annually for 4 years that you spend in the US, or maybe 5 years if you decide to do a double major in BSc and MBA, or BSc and MSc and graduate in 5 years, depending on what options you're looking at. It's important to have this conversation. It's very, very important. Then you also now apply to other schools that we call safety schools. So these safety schools will be schools that you know that your own profile overwhelmed. But guess what? Some of those safety schools, if you are very strategic about them, they can actually put you in the same place in terms of job opportunities as the Ivy League school. I'm not going to mention the names, rush towards the Ivy Leagues. All of us will rush. Everybody's rushing. So we're all giving, but it's good for everybody to dream, because you never just know. You understand? But as much as you are chasing the Ivy Leagues, you should also chase schools that can also place you, give you the same kind of work opportunities as the Ivy Leagues. So then the other thing that I need to add that's very important in terms of money is there are actually 2 ways to go to university in America for 4-year college. You can choose to go on the path of community college and university. So you spend 2 years community college and 2 years university. So after 2 years, the community transfer to university. We have a student that we prepared for community college in 2018. This fall is attending Stanford and is fully funded. Wow. Yes, but remember, it went to, and because usually community colleges, we have a lot of examples. Community colleges are cheaper options. So typically, strong Nigerian students, they take advantage of that. Then for Canada, if you want your children to get a lot of scholarships in Canada, what you should do as parents is to allow them be in the system for 1 year before they apply to university. Because if they're already in the system, when schools come to visit for college fair, they will consider them, even though they're international students. Do you understand? So parents should be mindful of, because I know that a lot of parents are now, in fact, this season, I'm encouraging a lot of parents, you understand? So they should let them do 1 year and be in that system. So when it's time, so they will now benefit from scholarships. But if they are entering if they are going directly from Nigeria, they can only get funding and 1,000 to 2,000 for only 1 year, most of the time, not for 4 years. You understand? So what you can do is they can plan towards saving the money for the first year. Maybe that will cost you about 20 to about 30 or 35 Canadian dollars for 1 year. Then after that, you get some relief. But you also must be strategic about it. So everything requires planning. But what is important is that money is key in everything that you are doing. Because everything that we are doing is, we're only looking at options. We're only doing optional analysis. You understand? That we're not certain. Just like COVID-19, we're not certain. Let me tell you, this year, the schools are not increasing their fees because of COVID. The schools are giving our students who are American citizens, they are giving them money. You understand? They are giving them money that they are not granted, that they are not refunding. They are extending some gifts also to international students. You understand? So, but what is important is that for me as a person, I usually plan for worst case scenario. For me, I'd rather buy a Volks that if it gets burnt, I replace it immediately than buy a G-Wagon that cannot replace. So that is the only way I can explain it. You understand? That's the only way I can explain it. So parents should be intentional. Save. If at the end of the day, they're able to go to school and they don't need the fund, then you need the money. You rob the money in your old age. Because in your old age is when you need money. It's when you need money more.
Okay, Ma. Thank you so much, Ma. I think we have come to the end of today's webinar. We have exhausted all the questions that we have here, actually. Thank you for everyone that tuned in, everyone that logged in for this webinar. Thank you so much. I know that during the course of this webinar, we had a lot of technical issues, but thank you so much for being part of it anyways. Just to recap on everything she has said, she has mentioned a lot about the importance of, the academic aspect of it all when it comes to your children in terms of their planning. So that's when she mentioned the Khan Academy, instill the habit of reading, instill the habit of watching very, very, very informative channels on TV, not just leave them unattended to. So she mentioned another very important point, which was about volunteering. She said, even if you don't have your own business, you should encourage your children to volunteer in other places. There are some life skills that they learn there that help them even in getting these Ivy League schools. And she mentioned another important part about extracurricular activities. So the footballs, the basketballs, don't stop your children from engaging in these extracurricular activities. She mentioned quite a lot of websites. She mentioned FastWeb. She mentioned Coursera. She mentioned MIT.edu. She mentioned quite a number of them. So and my colleague here also, he brought the investment part of things. He mentioned the part of the investment vehicles that we can invest in. He said a lot about equities, fixed income instruments, real estate. So those are questions, those are things that should start putting up stuff in our minds. Okay. And he said the importance of getting a financial advisor if you are completely new to this investment space. So these are things that should strike up conversations in our minds. On the screen right now, Mrs. Iyabode's profile is being shown. Please save the numbers if need be, save our email, save the website, our Instagram, Twitter is also showing, her Facebook, LinkedIn. Please, let's just take advantage of what we are seeing on our screen. For anybody that wants to still talk to her after now, maybe there are some things you want to be clear about, please feel free to reach out to her. She's very accessible. Okay. I hope everybody has been able to capture that. I would also just want to briefly talk about some of the products and services we have here at Quantum Zenith Asset Management. So we have our equity, we have the Equity Income Ethical and Money Market Fund. For the purpose of the things we're talking about or the things we spoke about today, the income fund would really do well because the income fund is more long tenured. So the income fund is a medium to long term investment, and also the minimum investment is 25,000 naira. So it's something that even if you as a parent decide that, you know what, having put everything into perspective, I want to be saving a 50,000 naira every month into the income fund, for instance, or I want to be saving 100,000 naira into the income fund, for instance, for my children's education. This is a very long-term investment that could help with that dream of taking your children to very quality universities. I hope we've been able to
Yeah.
give you a lot of insights and strategies to put in place as a parent or an upcoming parent on how to plan for your children's university education. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be sharing the link of this video and some of the slides that we have done, like this product snapshot and the contact address for Mrs. Iyabode. We'll be sharing that as well to your registered email. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.